Hi, and welcome to Dentistry 101. Today we're going to talk about research in dentistry, and we have the pleasure to have Dr. Peter Polverini with us today. Dr. Polverini is a faculty and researcher at the University of Michigan School of Dentistry, and he has been published actively in the field for the last few years, and he has over 158 publications so far. So, Dr. Polverini, thank you so much for coming.
Rogerio, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
So with the research in mind, I was about to ask you, what is the research that is being conducted at the University of Michigan School of Dentistry?
Well, one thing I think that makes the School of Dentistry at the University of Michigan really unique is because of the diversity of research that's there. Mm-hmm. You know, certainly there's a heavy investment in craniofacial research, looking at developmental defects, looking at the normal development of the craniofacial complex. But there's also significant investment in stem cell biology, in cancer research, in the understanding of the biological basis of wound healing, and a fairly substantial clinical research commitment. So I think what makes the School of Dentistry so unique is how diverse its research portfolio is and how deep the science is and the quality of people conducting the research. So it's very, very unique among most dental schools.
Okay. And how important it is to have a strong research program in a dental institution?
Well, I mean, I think if you consider yourself a profession, I think there's an obligation, particularly a learned profession, that you be at the cutting edge of advancing the field. And I think all dental schools really have a major commitment to pursue the very best research they can, because if the profession is going to advance, if new technologies are going to be implemented, it really should be the profession itself that's in the lead scientifically in developing this technology. All the advances in the biosciences that will have a direct impact on dentistry and the other health sciences, I think, are important that we participate in that process. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really central to again, a learned profession, that they take an active role in essentially determining their own destiny.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And what is the benefit of the research institution, intensive institution program for the DDS students that are graduated?
Well, I think dental students who are at schools that have made a commitment to do research, I think really have a deeper understanding of the biological basis of their profession. I think they understand the impact that the work has on the patients they'll be treating. Mm-hmm. And I think it teaches them to be critical thinkers in a very broad sense. So it's not only in terms of understanding the very basic research, but also understanding clinical research and how it impacts all of the health sciences. So those students that are part of a university that is invested in research, I think, have a much deeper understanding of the value it has to their profession, and they're going to make informed decisions and are capable of really changing as the science progresses in their own practice.
Okay. And many of our listeners will be undergrad students and young students that are thinking in dentistry. And in your opinion, what's the best time that you can advise them to start to do research?
Well, I mean, I think as any opportunity that arises where you can actually ask unique questions, I think it's your advantage to take advantage of it, whether it be in a high school project, working with other groups of students, whether it be as an undergrad in college, any opportunity at any time that allows you to explore questions and test hypotheses, I think there's no right time to do it. Whenever the chance arises, you should take advantage of it. It just gives you an opportunity to make some decisions about, is this the sort of area that I want to study as I go on? Is this the type of profession I want to pursue? And I think when you understand the science, you can make a much more informed decision about your career path.
Mm-hmm. And let's change gear a little bit.
Sure.
And talk about your experience.
Okay.
So what really motivated you to be engaged and involved in research?
Well, I think it really started when I was in undergraduate school. I had taken a couple elective courses in the medical school at Marquette University, where I was a student. And I was just falling in love with the idea of actually doing research, working with senior faculty. Then when I went to dental school, after taking my first course in pathology, I said, this is what I want to do for the rest of my career, is to understand, the pathologic mechanisms of disease. And so my decision was to pursue a specialty in oral and maxillofacial pathology, which allowed me to see, as they say, disease on the hoof. And from that, seeing that, it allowed me to really think very deeply about causes of disease, and that in turn made my decision to go on to combine a career in research with the practice of pathology. And that's what I've been doing for 40 years now, and it's just been a wonderful experience for me. I'd not change a thing if I had to do it all over again.
Very nice. And what is your training path you choose?
So my path, again, after dental school, I decided to go into a specialty training that combined a rich research experience at Harvard University at that time, and they still have a Doctor of Medical Sciences program, and what allowed people who wanted to pursue a clinical specialty, they could also do quality research in which there was a thesis. And of course, going to Harvard, I was able to work with some of the best people in the world. And I, from that point, after spending 5 years there, it really set the path for my career going forward. I had a wonderful, rich experience working with some of the best people in the world there. I had a great opportunity to learn, different areas that I could think about pursuing as a faculty member. But it was really my experiences at Harvard as a graduate student that really solidified my decision to go into research. And then when I finished my training, I wound up going to University of Pittsburgh for 3 years, and then I was recruited by Northwestern University's medical school. They had the responsibility at the time for hiring faculty to teach dental students pathology, and they had a diagnostic pathology, oral pathology program. So being in the medical school and having the rich environment of a medical school at the same time teaching dental students and practicing oral pathology, I had the best of both worlds. I had resources, and they set a very high standard in terms of expectations, in terms of scientific productivity. So I think that sort of was a key to my development, not only as a scientist, working with wonderful creative individuals, but also as a faculty member.
Mm-hmm. That seems like a very good experience in research.
Certainly
right?
was.
And can you resume your path in research in terms of the areas that you have been exposed and explored?
Yeah, well, it was interesting. When I was at Harvard, there were, at that time, this is back in the early 70s, the university was largely pursuing some very cutting-edge research in the field of immunology. At the time, the chair of pathology, where I was a graduate student, he had just won the Nobel Prize for discovering the major histocompatibility complex. So the school, the university was awash in antibodies, let me put it that way, and T cells. But I was in a laboratory, and there were 2 laboratories at the time pursuing research in vascular biology. So I happened to be at the right place at the right time, working in 2 of the best laboratories in the world, probably one of the few at the time. And that's sort of where I made my investment in understanding the vascular biology from the standpoint of chronic inflammatory disease. And then that eventually led me to really pursue the impact of inflammation in cancer biology in vascular disease. So, all this sort of this blend of vascular biology and cancer biology turned out to be a wonderful opportunity for me to really think very differently about the impact of the science on disease in general. Not only just cancer, but disease in general. So I blended those 2 fields throughout most of my career. And it turned out to be, in my case, I couldn't have been happier doing that.
Now, that is a fascinating career. And thank you so much for coming and interviewing with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure.
And thank you so much for watching.